Dame, I know you've said that you and Giannis still working through, obviously your chemistry and stuff together, but that last play, the play you took the lead on, I should say, that three that you hit, Griffith just said that you kind of had diverted kind of based off the play, just off of what you see. Anyway, just how did you feel on that play? Like, did that kind of, is that an action, I guess, like show kind of potential of what you guys can do as you continue to work through your chemistry together?
Yeah, I think it was definitely an action that we could, make our own. Obviously, right now, early, like you said, we trying to learn each other. We trying to figure out ways to play off of each other, figure out what works for each other. And that specific play I thought was a good action because I didn't have to go to the ball. I was still able to circle back. It was a DHO to the corner, but when I looked to the weak side, I knew that because how big of a possession it is, usually people don't want their man to be the one to score. So I cut back door just to see if I'd be able to get a quick layup first, knowing my man would be playing on the high side. And he ended up trailing me in the play. And it just basically gave me the opportunity to come from behind Giannis's defender because he had the ball. So his man, instead of me going uphill where he can see the action coming, I went back door. It wasn't there. I knew that was a live action, a live option. And then I came back uphill from behind the defender. So once I kind of turned the corner with the handoff, I knew he wouldn't be able to just jump it because I was coming from behind him. And once I kind of read where his body was, I knew I would be able to raise up and get a pretty clean look. So I thought that was a really good action, for me and him to be on the clear side and have options to where even if he didn't hand it to me and his man jumped up when he saw me, he still would have probably had to keep to the rim, So it's a lot of things that we could have done, but I'm happy we was able to execute it well enough to, to score.
How good did you guys feel defensively, especially compared to the last game and the last couple of games, with the change, having Brooke kind of back in the drop tonight?
I noticed a huge difference, just his presence in the paint. A lot of the shots that were taken in the paint were contested. I felt his length in the paint more than the previous games just because you can tell that's where he's comfortable and, that's where he navigates. So we want to force contested twos, tough twos. And, tonight, especially Brunson, that's his game, the in-between, fadeaways, pull-ups, floaters. So he was able to get it going in that range, but I think a lot of the teams that have been hurting us have been from three. We've been getting sucked in, Brooke on the perimeter, guys at the rim sometimes, and, them throwing it out for three. So I felt like him being in the paint, it changed how we defended tonight. I thought it was really helpful.
I think y'all went about 7 minutes without a basket there in the fourth quarter as the lead narrowed. What were they doing to kind of throw you off your game at that stretch, and how were you able to kind of recover down the stretch?
I don't think it was anything that they did that was special. Obviously, you got to give credit to any team that stops you from scoring for that amount of time. I just think it was more of our lack of execution than it was them changing anything. They didn't do anything different defensively than they had done the entire game. I just think at that time, we weren't assertive enough. We weren't attacking. When we were having success, we was making the play on time. As soon as the defense moved, the ball was gone. We was making an extra pass. We was advancing and we was getting in the pocket. And I think during that stretch, we kind of took for granted how hard we were working to get those good looks, and we thought it was just going to happen. And then we allowed their defense to be disruptive because of it. So I think when you get away from the things that are working from you and you kind of think that it's easy because it feels easy when you are working on the offensive end, that's what it looks like, especially for a team that's trying to come together and still trying to, put it all together.
Hey, Dame. Coach told us that a few players came to him regarding Brooke in the drop and just mentioned that and as a possible change and hence what everything unfolded. Just how big is it to you where a coach is that approachable and listens to feedback from the team, and how big is that communication going to be moving forward?
I think that's an extremely positive thing for us on this team. Obviously, when you are the head coach of an NBA team, you got to stand your ground. You got to stand on your square with some things because coaches are coaches and players are players. And we always gonna have our opinion about stuff. Like, challenge this, and we might be emotional about the game. A coach has to sometimes be willing to say no, like we next play, or whatever we might have our thoughts about. A coach has to be willing and able to stand his ground. So when you have a coach like that who's open to it, I think that's extremely positive given our experience. But it's also a fine line where some things he's going to have to hold his ground on. But I think that was one of the things that could be really helpful for our team, is having a guy who's been in the running for Defensive Player of the Year for I don't know how many years now, doing what he's comfortable doing and what he's good at. So I think that was great of him, and it shows that he's a player's coach, early on.
Going back to defense, how much did this team's defensive efforts help the offense tonight?
I thought it was really helpful. I think any player will tell you when the other team's not scoring and you getting it off the rebound and you pushing it at them, offense is much easier. The flow is much better. You're not playing against a set defense every possession. It makes it a lot easier. The game happens much more natural when it's that way. So I think that really is to our benefit, especially with the weapons we have. We got multiple guys that can push the ball, make the right play. We got shooters all over the floor. So as much as we can get the ball off the rebound instead of taking it out the net and jumping it out, I think that'll be a huge plus for us. So when we're able to be how we were a lot tonight defensively, the game will flow much better offensively.
You've said a few times your mindset doesn't necessarily change for each game. You keep it pretty steady. But I'm curious, going into the fourth, especially with this being in-season tournament, did you have any difference of like an energy shift or just something, a different feeling going into that quarter?
Not really. I think it's just I try to identify like the moments where, all right, I can assert myself right here, or I can kind of step up right here. I look for those moments every game, and that's just my mentality. At the end of the game, it's like this is it. The last 5 minutes. It's going to be some turnovers, it's going to be some missed shots, it's going to be missed free throws sometimes, and it just comes down to who's going to get those few stops, who's going to execute and score down the stretch, and that's probably my favorite part of the game, where it's like everything counts and somebody has to step up and you got to make a play and something has to happen. But the fact that it was the in-season tournament, I didn't even think about that during the game, but you can definitely feel that it's something there, with the court and like just the energy around it. But that didn't really play a role in, how my mind worked at that time.
Hey, Dame. Talking with Brooke a little bit, he was talking about, it's cool that, Griff trusted us or whatever, but he also said you guys haven't practiced that a whole lot. So he was talking about, like, it was cool that my teammates trusted me to listen to my calls and do that stuff. So what was it like actually playing drop with Brooke and kind of trusting those calls and seeing him quarterback a little bit?
I actually liked it because it's to the point. When he's in the drop, what coverage you're going to be in much earlier. It was a possession early in the game. My man set a step up. I switched on to Brunson, and the screen hadn't even happened yet, and he was yelling the coverage because it really didn't matter because he was dropped back. So I knew where to keep the ball on the side, and I knew where I was sending it to. So it was just I noticed a difference right away. You can tell that he's comfortable calling the game that way. He knows how to navigate being, kind of in the paint. He's behind everything so he can see. I just heard him talking a lot more tonight because he's kind of back there seeing everything. So for us guys who play a lot on the perimeter, especially defensively, hearing a guy back there communicate, you hear his voice, directing traffic, it's extremely helpful.
Dame, going back to Brunson for a second, how difficult is it to deal with a guy like that with his jump stops and pivots and fakes, especially when there aren't many guys in the league who operate like that? Yeah,
just super crafty. He can make threes, but he doesn't settle for threes. He draws fouls. He knows how to position himself in front of the defender. He puts the defender in tough positions to where you have to foul. You trying to defend hard like you taught to, and then he's, having you at his mercy. He just attack hard, then he stop on the dime, and you trail in the play, and you just run into him. You know, they play a lot through him, so he's having the ball. You know, I've been in a situation where the ball is just constantly in your hand, the rhythm that you have, the freedom that you have. So you up against it, you know, when you're playing against somebody like him. And I think over the course of a game, you just got to keep coming at him. I know from experience that even when you're feeling great and even when you're rolling, when the team is constantly coming at you, it only gets harder. And you know, that's all you can do. And I thought we did that. We just kept coming. We kept trusting what we were trying to do. And at the end, he missed a couple shots that he had been making all night because we just kept coming. And we get the stops we need. We make some free throws. And, you know, that was the game. For sure.